Good afternoon and welcome to the 2020 Economic Recession and Preparation channel. And I'm your host, Tony. I thank you for joining me today on this first day of November 2019. Hard to believe that we only have 1 month left in 2019. Some of us thought that we wouldn't be this far along in 2019 without any major economic hiccups or black swan events, but here we are. And today, just to start off, we have the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 both closing at a fresh all-time high. Remember, I told you that yesterday that don't be surprised if we would see all-time highs on the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, as the markets got partially what they wanted, that rate cut, the 25 basis point rate cut by the Federal Reserve. So the Dow was up about 301 points or so today at the close. The S&P 500, crested over 3,067 points, up nearly 1%. And it's its third record close of the week. The Nasdaq finished 1.1% higher at 8386 points and surpassed even its July high. So, my friends, we can see that this was spurred by, obviously, the Fed rate cut and, obviously, the solid October jobs data that, quote-unquote, that the media has been propagating. As a matter of fact, this morning they revised the job numbers for August and September and October slightly upward in each case, as they said that it's a good sign for future growth as hiring conditions are improving, fueling consumer spending and confidence, quote unquote, says Ryan Dietrich, a senior market strategist for LPL Financial. So for the S&P, it was the fourth straight week of gains. For the Nasdaq, this is the fifth straight week of running. The investors continue to shrug off weak manufacturing data, which we've seen, as this is the third month that the PMI manufacturing index has shown a contraction in a row. I've been hearing from truckers, my friends who are truckers out in the Midwest and the West, that the volume of trucking raw materials has slowed, while CSX rail and the freight lines on the rail lines have remained moderately stagnant or only up 1 or 2%. So this digression or divergence is very concerning. I'm going to get into a couple of points here and that I want to tell you just off the top. The next Federal Reserve meeting is going to be December the 10th and the 11th, and this is going to be the final meeting of the year, but I can already tell you that another rate cut is in the forecast. I'm about 50% or above 50% sure that another rate cut is coming. We have about 5 more rate cuts before we get to 0% interest rates on the Fed funds rate there. And if the meetings are scheduled, that would take us theoretically to the end of 2021 before we bottom out and go to negative interest rates, should everything hold up. But I don't think that's going to be the case because for us to fall into a recession or depression, we don't necessarily need the rates to go below zero. It could be right at zero or just above slightly zero before things can get really, really bad. So that is the thing that we're looking at in terms of that. Now, I wanted to bring to your attention that there is a problem with these job numbers, and I want to tell you why. Because the New York Times and others are reporting that there is a problem in spite of the record unemployment low numbers that they keep bragging about. Unemployment's at a recordly low, shockingly 3.6%, and we've had 109 months of consecutive job gains. Okay, here's the problem. People who have lost their job are struggling to find work that provides so-called a middle-class income. Well, duh, okay? No kidding. In every sector of the country, from the southeast to the northeast to the west to the midwest, to those in the outlying islands, okay, and territories, people who have lost their jobs are now looking for jobs longer than 3 months, longer than 6 months, according to reports, okay? And this is only natural. I mean, for good paying jobs, quote unquote, those that pay above $20-$25 an hour, okay? An actual livable wage. So this is the problem. So a lot of Americans have shared their story here with this reporter. By the way, the U.S. economy only added 128,000 jobs in October. Mind you, we have a work labor force right now currently of 130 million people in America that's working full-time at full-time employment. That's out of 350 million Americans legally here that we know of. Of course, we know that there's much more here that's, not here by the proper means, I should say. But, that's what we have on the books right now until the 2020 census comes out next year, okay? But let me share with you some of the stories here of some of the workers saying the struggles that they find out. They're finding a lot of age discrimination, okay? There's one guy, a 70-year-old doctor in North Carolina, and he says he was a full professor at a medical school. He ran a training program. He has a good reputation. He had to resign from his position over some conflicts, and they wouldn't hire him back, and other places wouldn't hire him back. Any other medical school in North Carolina or any other teaching institution wouldn't hire him back. Another person was laid off in Massachusetts near Boston area during the financial meltdown of 2008, and she lost her health insurance. He had great credentials, a great worker, master's degree, everything, doctorate, but she was not able to utilize her financial background to successfully manage her money or policy for retirement. So we have a lot of baby boomers and retirees that are staying on the job longer or either called back to a job that they had, but they can't get it because the companies are discriminating. They're not hiring them back. A lot of younger people, millennials, who have to move to various cities to take care of their older parents, or they have to just move for life circumstances. Maybe they got married, or maybe they start a family but in a different city or in a different place, and they have to move across country or move to another location. They're finding that it takes much longer for these headhunters to help them find a job, even in professional fields. Okay, we're talking about lawyer, doctor, teacher, nurse, preacher, writer, journalist. Professional fields, it's taking longer even in professional fields. Okay, so no matter how skilled you were or skilled you think you are, there was a job for you. And I remember, in the early 2000s and the late 90s, you could technically, resign from your job professionally, and you would have a job within the next maybe a month or two, granted everything was going well in the heyday. Now you can't do that so much. And why is that? Why in a place where we have unemployment at 3.6%, the official numbers, and we're at quote unquote full employment, is it taking people longer to find a good paying job? Notice I said that because we know that the job numbers now, that all these numbers from August to October that they've given us, the ADP and the official statistics on the Fed statistics that come out on the Federal Data Reserve, those are made up of part-time, seasonal, low-paying jobs under $10 an hour, and we know that you can't feed a family on that. And you can't pay rent on that, and you can't pay car payments and insurances and cell phone bills and everything else that most people have going on in their lives if you live in America. So, and this is toppled the fact by automation, the rise of AI. Every time you go to a Walmart, a Target, any store, they have self-checkout kiosks galore. Only one checkout line is with an actual human being person now. Even in the aisles, you can scan things and find the prices. They can talk to you and tell you, hello, can I help you today? So with automation and AI increasing, because most corporations don't want to they don't want to pay taxes, most of the super rich corporations, but they don't want to pay workers benefits like health, dental, vision, and have an actual pension. They don't want to do that anymore. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the unions are going away as well too, from all across all levels. They're trying to break that down as well. So now we're looking at this, and you're saying that what's happening is, even though the job market is softening in terms of the real job market, there's become a rise of the freelancing economy. And what I mean is, there's a rise of people becoming their own independent contractors, sort of, working on a contract basis. Even nurses are doing that now. Traveling nurses, you see that now, because they don't have to. Companies notice that they don't have to pay benefits, and they don't have to. They can keep you on a short-term basis, short-term contract, and just pay you your salary, and that's it. Or you can work from home. You can work from anywhere. You can teach English and to a foreign country through your computer and webcam or whatever. And so we're seeing between millennials and the new generation Y, we're seeing an increase in the rise of the freelancing economy as people realize that they kind of have to survive on their own and make it on their own because they're not going to get much help from an actual job. Sad to say, from a low-paying job. Now, if you happen to be one of those other people that have a good-paying job, then you better keep it, because like this article from New York Times clearly says that it's taking a longer time to be able to find a job in a new city or town. Just like the housing market, that mirrors the housing market. It's taking a longer time for people to sell their houses who need to sell their houses for a profit, and they're staying on the market longer. Isn't that interesting? So just want to throw that in there. Now, back to the negative interest rate thing here, my friends. The countries that have negative interest rates right now are Japan, Sweden, the ECB, which is the European Central Bank, Denmark, Switzerland, okay? So that's the countries that are heading toward that way. Now, the ECB is planning to introduce a stimulus package, okay, in the next few months. So look for that in the new year, probably after February. As we go into the spring of 2020, the ECB, that's the European Central Bank, is going to introduce a stimulus package for my friends in Europe, because Germany is already in a heavy recession, okay? And they obviously have negative interest rates, and people are worried about Deutsche Bank. So they're going to be introducing a stimulus package. For my friends, for us in the United States, we won't be getting any stimulus package immediately, at least in the short term, okay? Our stimulus will continue to be the lowered interest rates by the Federal Reserve and the continued repo buying back of bonds by the Federal Reserve. And so our only shelter, since we can't put much money in the banks because we're not getting any savings interest per se, we're getting like a cent or 2 cents on $10,000, which is crazy, 20 cents or something like that. Our only is to keep cash in our own central bank and to keep gold and silver and those things that are going to hold value, okay? Now, one thing that I tell you is going to be key when we go into this recession or depression is the actual supplies. That may actually be worth more than gold and silver. The actual medical, physical, food and water supply and antibiotics and things of those nature, because those things are going to be harder and harder to find as the manufacturing continues to contract. They're just not going to be making a much more of these products or importing a much more of these products. Remember now, the United States imports 75%, okay, of the products you see in these stores at Walmart, Target, Safeway, any grocery store, Albertsons, Save-On. Anything you see, 75% of that stuff in that store is imported from a lot of different countries, okay? Mexico, Canada, Philippines, China, of course, Russia, so you have to remember that. So when manufacturing continues to contract, which it has for the third straight month in a row, this is what we're going to be dealing with, okay? So right now you might be able to use your credit card and make payments and all of that, or use your debit card, but if you don't have cash on hand, banks can be freeze your assets and take bail-ins instead of a bailout, because they can do that. Because right now, with banks are scared too, because if we go into negative interest rates, they cannot make money, okay, on the products and goods and services, because they're basically giving out cheap money, okay? It's cheaper for us to borrow money, but at the same time, the banks cannot make money when they go into heavy negative interest rates, okay? So keep cash on hand. Cash is king. Better yet, cash flow is king in your house, okay? The more cash flow you have, then the less debt you have, the better off you and your family are going to be when things hit the fan, okay? So, which I believe is going to be in 2021. I'm not giving 2020. 2020 is going to be the slowdown. Like I said, you can see things slowing down now. I've given you the numbers. We had 1.9% growth this past quarter. Most economists were expecting 1.6% growth. Does it really matter? 1.6, 1.9? It's still under 3%. That's minuscule. So that's what's happening on that. Two things that are causing this big recession that we're going to experience, and I want you to research this as well and write this down, is the velocity of money. And that's number one, okay? And the liquidity of money. When liquidity dries up, okay, that means the flow of money. When that dries up and credit dries up, as you can see, when credit dries up, business credit dries up, corporate credit dries up, and consumer credit dries up, because remember in the media they've been telling you that, the consumer's strong and blah, blah, blah. How can you be strong when the average consumer has, this consumer credit card debt has over $10,000 to $12,000 consumer debt, okay? And student loan debt is at an all-time high overall, and women have the most student loan debt, ironically, but we all contribute aggregately to $1.4 trillion in student loan debt and housing debt, okay? how can the U.S. consumer be strong when 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? Okay, that's just a fact. Okay, no matter how much you make, 150K, the 80K, the 40K, the 20K, we are not able to save. And even if we are saving our money, we're not getting anything back in the banks, our savings and bonds. As a matter of fact, Germany began issuing bonds, 0% bonds, and nobody took them up on that, and that fell. So are you going to be one of the people that just continue to shop until you drop? Because that's what the Fed wants you to do, because they're lowering these rates. The same thing happened in 2008, but this is going to be worse because there's bubbles everywhere. Are you going to be one of those people that continue to go to these malls, these outlet malls, and, tell your kids that everything is all right? They don't have to save for a rainy day. Just keep shopping, keep spending. Buy that car on an 8-year loan. Buy that truck. Just go to Victoria's Secret, go to H&M, go to all these fancy stores. Get that Coach bag. Get whatever you want. Live it up, because tomorrow, we know things are going to be going down. No, please don't do that. Please don't. Okay. The longer they expand this shopping spree for Americans at the expense of the rest of the world and the global economy, the more painful it's going to be over here when things come to a grinding halt. Okay, because before we get to the deflationary recession, we're going to have a period of stagflation where the Fed is going to already have spent all of their tools. Okay, everything. They can't drop rates no more. Okay, once they've done the 5 cuts up until 2021, like I told you, they're going to run out of ammo, because in addition to doing the cuts, like I said, they're doing the repo market. We're buying back all these treasury bonds and loading up their balance sheet. So, and they're doing this on purpose, intentionally, I believe. And so, during the December 10th and 11th final Fed meeting of the year, you can expect another 25 basis point cut. Okay, that is I would say right now, that's a 70% guarantee. Okay, because you notice that these markets are they're not even, as far as they're juiced up to record highs, but they should be blasting to the moon with all this liquidity that they've been getting, injections that the banks have been getting, but they're not, because of the situation that is going on here. And so it's really sad. It's a really sad situation, but we can survive this. And like I said, the solution for us to survive is going to be cutting back things that we don't need. Maybe instead of going out to the movies, that costs $30 or $40 or $50, maybe we can watch things at home. Maybe we can cut back on the clothes we wear, start buying jeans and things at Walmart, at Target for your kids, or different shirts and stuff at Old Navy. They have good sales there, instead of buying the designer clothes with the logo on it that we really don't need. So they're asking us to go down to a lower standard of living, and I think we can do that. But what's going to hurt us is that the ultra rich people, the top super 1%, is not only taking their money and putting it in safe havens, but they're also taking our money as well and draining out the system completely. And that's why I say that this next recession depression is going to be a slow drain into a depression that's going to leave everybody basically shelterless, but except those who are prepared, like I said. So that's my brief overview for today. I pray that you guys have a blessed weekend. Continue to prepare. Don't be lulled to sleep by the holiday. We will have a good holiday season, not in terms of retail sales and all of that, but we will have a good holiday season in terms of what we do have, being with our family, friends and loved ones, and not for some of those, hearts and prayers go out to California, but with all the fires and things and people lost everything. We may be having a bad day, but not as bad as those people in California who some people houses are gone and everything. And so we have a lot to be thankful for. Our economy is slowing, the global economy is slowing, but we still live in one of the best countries in the world, I believe, still, in spite of all of our issues. And so we can get through this, and there are, for those of you who think that I'm just a gloom and doom person, I'm not, like I said, because I was applauding when the markets went up. I think that's great. I think it's good news. But everything, like I said, all good things must come to an end. All thing that come up, and we don't want to be living in a bubble. And right now, too many people are living in a bubble, and they're not preparing for the situation at hand. Okay, we've been in 11 years in expansion. There's only so much. This is just the natural law of the business cycle. Okay, the natural law of business cycle says that you must have a downturn or a correction reset very soon. Okay. And so that's what we're looking at. We're only using common sense here. Okay. I pray that you get ready and that you stay prepared and that you help your community out. There's so many people out here that are oblivious to it because, they're listening to CNBC or CNN and they're telling them everything is great. But underneath it all, when the exterior is peeled back, what do you have? What do you really have in actual value? Money is just an exchange for products and services, but it's not an exchange of value. What are you actually getting for your money? At the end of the day, you don't want to leave your bags and come up empty-handed at the end of the day with nothing or not being prepared. It's better to be prepared than not be prepared. That's what my mom always says. That's what I try to do. Okay, but if you're not prepared, then if you plan to fail, if you don't plan, you plan to fail, then hey, that's on you. But we here at the 2020 Economic Recession Preparation Channel, we're here to prepare you, to keep you safe, and that's the plan for all Americans because we know what's coming, and it's coming fast. So stay safe, enjoy your weekend, and I'll talk to you again on Monday. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.